Hello, crafters. Thanks for joining us again for our live Wednesday chats. I know that some of you may have been here before, so welcome back. And if you haven't been here before, you'll hear me saying we a lot throughout this video. And when I say we, I mean my wife Amy and myself. Amy and I, if you haven't seen our work or our channel before, are full-time artists and crafters. And Amy is also a fine artist as well. And what we do is we make all kinds of different types of metal and leather items and generally take the subject matter and images from Amy's watercolors and her illustrations and create those as the subjects and images on our metal and leather items. I do a little bit of that artwork as well, but mainly where I come in is in the studio and at the booth. So with these videos, we're hoping to impart some of our hard-won knowledge about being full-time crafters, and as well as doing over 600 craft shows at this point. So we want to be able to kind of give you some points about setting up your booth, how to sell your work, and that kind of thing. Just in general, the lifestyle of being a full-time crafter or artist. And so with that in mind, today's topic is, how do I know if I'm ready to start selling my handmade crafts or artwork at craft fairs? Now that is a burning question that many artists and crafters have. I think we all pass that bridge really at some point. And I know that many of you may be at that point right now. And so we thought we'd make this video now. It's a good time of year that if you do happen to be ready, then great. You can be maybe in a few shows before the end of the year and experience the Christmas season in some capacity, or be all good to go to start next year. So basically, Amy and I kind of came up with a list, as we tend to do for these lives, where just some points that we thought would be good ideas to consider to determine for yourself whether or not you're ready to start selling your work. So basically, the idea is, just picture this. You're at a craft fair. It's exciting. They've done a beautiful job. It's laid out beautifully. It's got that kind of magic to it. And there's all these customers. They're bustling, they're laughing, they're having a great time picking out items. And nestled right in there with many of the other crafters that you've seen in person in your area is your booth. And it's filled with all of your own unique crafts. And I hope that's an exciting scene for you, because it certainly always was for us, just to stand there and visualize and imagine, like, what if in this spot was our booth? And what would we put in it? Well, we'd put this and this and this, and we'd need a sign and so forth. And so that part of it is always exciting, to just kind of visualize yourself in there amidst the excitement of the craft fair. I think the first thing that I would like to talk about is commitment. So by that, we mean commitment to the whole thing, like to being a full-time crafter, to your craft, to doing the shows, to showing up, all that kind of thing. It's a big deal. It's not an easy bridge to cross necessarily, because you often have to, of course, juggle your personal life. You may have another job, you may have children, you may have all kinds of other commitments, but you still really want to do your craft or your art, which is amazing. And so you need to be able to commit a certain amount of time and resources and finances to be able to actually do this and have it be a rewarding experience for you. And so that's just something to think about up front, to really think about, is now a good time for me to commit to that? Do I have the time that I could squeeze it in here? I know it could be really tight. Believe me, we've done that. I understand it can be very tight, but do you have the time? Do you have the finances to get the materials that you need to make the pieces? Do you have the finances to invest in the shows? Many of them do require a payment up front, like immediately. Some of them have a 3 payment plan if it's a more expensive show, but for shows that are typically just $50 to $300 or $400, they're going to just expect the whole amount, like, as soon as you're accepted. So you need to keep that in mind, that you will have these payments coming up as well. If you need to travel for the show, do you have money for that, for accommodations and fuel and so forth? And so I think just staying in your passion for this one, and if this is a craft, I'm assuming that you're very passionate about your craft. So if you're very passionate about the craft, can you stay committed to all of that at this time? Because there's times when you do a show and for whatever reason it's super dead, for example, and people could do cartwheels down the aisle, and it's painful. And you could be sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, this was not a good choice." But if you're committed, you'll go, "Okay, this particular one, or at least this part of the show didn't work out. Still might turn out okay, or still might turn out great. You never know. It could just be a dead day on the show." But you'll run into these roadblocks or these obstacles or these kind of just rough spots, really. And if you're committed and you're passionate, you'll just kind of roll through that. If you're not, it could really put you off because it can be like it can kind of suck. And so you don't want to be in that situation where you didn't really deeply consider how committed you needed to be to overcome some of the things where it's either so dead that you can't imagine that like it could possibly be that boring, or it's so busy that you can't even leave the booth for like 1 minute for hours on end. Like you might be stuck at the booth for 10 hours straight. Sometimes people don't think about that either. And if you do need a break for some reason, any type of reason, it can be very taxing as well. So I think the next thing that Amy and I had discussed was to evaluate your products. Do they stand out in the market based on what you've observed in craft shows that you've gone to, art shows you've gone to? Are your products a unique take on, say, scarves or jewelry or whatever it is? It doesn't matter, whatever it is you make. Do you feel, yes, it's unique and this is why? And if someone asked me, what's so unique about your product? You'd be like, hey, let me tell you, this is why, and this is a unique process, and I came up with this idea, and I combined these things, and so forth. That's amazing. Are you at that stage? That's something that you also need to ask yourself, like, oh, if someone put me on the spot, which they will do, believe me, they will put you on the spot immediately. Are you ready? Like, just you can just answer it like as if it was nothing, or would you be going, well, let me think about that and get back to you, kind of thing. So, you want to evaluate that and just see if that's something, the place that you're at with your creation, because all of your creations of course have that potential, but are the ones that you want to present at the craft shows, are they ready for that just yet? Like, can you speak to that? If you can, that's wonderful. If you can't yet, or if you could but you just need to formulate it, that's also great, because you can then just kind of go away here and think about that and come up with, well, if I was asked this in this way or that in this way, then I would say this or that, kind of thing, rather than being totally stumped when someone said something, or knowing how you would respond to a question that might, you don't want to say something that gives away your your creative process or your proprietary knowledge or property and that kind of thing. So people will pry into it, and you need to know how to handle it without it really bothering you, and you just want to be unfazed by that. As a part of this, I would say, like we were talking, Amy and I were talking about market research. So have you conducted research in your target market? Do you have a good understanding of the potential customers that you would meet at these craft fairs and what they'd be looking for? It's a good idea to include items that people commonly want, but in your own unique way. You may be making something that's like super niche. Let's say you make horse bridles. Occasionally, you meet someone that makes horse bridles, and people do need horse bridles, but they may not directly go to a craft show looking for horse bridles. They probably go to a bridlery shop, etc., where they may expect to find that. But that doesn't mean that they or someone who knows them won't come to the show and see yours and go, "Wow, that's a beautiful ornate bridle. Never seen anything like it before. I'm interested. Maybe not today, but I'm interested." Or I think my father or my husband or whomever, my mother, etc., would be interested because they are the horse person. But can I take your information away and give it to them? So you could build up some um, uh, referrals in that way, which is wonderful. Um, but you need to have something else at your booth. Sometimes I've seen people do this where they do exactly that. They, let's just say they have horse bridles and they have a beautiful booth and they have big pictures of horses and the bridles on the horses, and they're standing there and they're wearing their jockey outfit and maybe not, but they, they're right into it, and they don't have anything else to sell. And then at the end of the show, well, I gave out a lot of business cards. Yes, that is also good, but not as good as if maybe you, in addition to making horse bridles, also say you really like making basic leather wallets. One of the most popular things to make for leather is basic men's leather wallets. A lot of men like an unembellished, classic looking leather wallet. Well, maybe you have those at the booth and you have them all on your table lined up and you've got different colors and different bifolds and trifolds and card wallets and so forth. And then you have this big display of your bridles, and someone comes and they buy the wallet. And then the next person comes and they go, well, I like a wallet and my mom also rides horses. May I get your card or leave her information so that you can contact us about your bridles? Because I think we would love to have those as we compete in the equestrian competitions around the area or whatever the case might be. And so in that scenario, it'd be really good for you to have an item that is a takeaway item that people kind of go to a craft show somewhat expecting to find. Like, people generally wouldn't be surprised to find leather wallets. It doesn't have to be that. Of course, it could be something else, but something where you can make sales and cover your costs and all that kind of thing, even if what you're really trying to do is market your more niche product. That was a bit of a tangent, but I wanted to give a thorough example there because there's so many different scenarios that I think where people can get hung up and they go, well, my product's too niche, I could never do that. I don't think that's true. I had met a person that sold fossils, and they made a bunch of stone display items like cell phone holders and all that kind of thing with a fossil on it or out of slate. But what they really did was they sell and make slate fireplaces, like these beautiful fireplaces. And so really what they were doing was just kind of being there, being part of the market, seeing who they met, selling some of their smaller items that were made out of materials that they couldn't make a fireplace out of anyhow, and making contacts for those larger sales for later. And so that's a format that could work too. The next point that we had was consistency and quality. So, making 1 or 5 of an item is generally pretty fun. Like, especially when they're the first 5, you're excited. Hey, this is my new idea. I can't wait to get this done and see it for myself. Oh, it's going to come alive here. And you make all 5 of them, and maybe you do them each in a different color, but they're basically the same otherwise. And oh, geez, which one's my favorite? I'm not sure. That is an amazing feeling. And Amy and I go through that all the time. Like, every show, because Amy has just so many ideas that every show I'm like, okay, what do you want to do this time? But that's not filling the booth. Filling the booth could mean making a whole bunch of a similar item, or just a whole bunch of a certain process needs to be done, even though the items maybe are technically different sizes or colors or images, or maybe they're just a different item, like a different the process for making your earrings and pendants and bracelet components might be similar, even though they all go into different items in the end. A lot of the work will probably be about the same. And so you need to be committed to that as well, because when you're in the middle of preparing for a show and there's all these items everywhere and you've got things drying over here and you've got things going through a process over here and so forth, it can be a lot and it can fill up your space really fast. And, you can start to wonder at some points, like, geez, like, am I going to get any of these done for the show? But if you watched last week, and if you didn't see last week, we talked about production schedules and that kind of thing. And that was some of our tips on that, because that's an easy thing to get hung up on anyways at any point. But if you have your production schedule, you can get to that point. But are you prepared to say you make something and everybody loves it, and you're ready to do the shows. You know that this is going to be a good item because you've had so many people interested in it already, just on a personal level. Are you ready to make 100 of them? That's something, and they have to be consistent, and the quality has to be the same. And they were, of course, they're not going to be identical because they're handmade, but are they going to be pretty close? Like if you were to have 100 of them and someone ordered online and you remade it, would it be pretty close to the picture? That kind of thing. And so you're looking for just how repeatable, how close can you get your work, and are you prepared to go through that process of refining it and refining your process and that kind of thing. Financial readiness is our next point, and I kind of breached into that a little earlier, but basically, like, are you ready to commit the money that you need to ultimately, like, really realistically, for everything that you're going to need for your raw materials, for your booth rentals, for your travel, for anything else you may require. You may need childcare. You may need all kinds of different things that might not immediately be connected to making a scarf, for example. And so you have to think out your whole budget like that and work this in and go, yes, if you're saying yes, now is a good time for that, or at least I can do that right now, and I do want to do these shows, then that's great. That's perfect. If now is not, if you just can't, everywhere you crunch it, you can't quite do it right now, then it's something you can build towards, because you don't want to put yourself in a bad position financially, especially when you don't know yet 100% what kind of results you're going to expect on um, on your from your shows. Of course, they're always something that is variable, and no show is ever guaranteed or predictable. But after you've done a number of shows, you can get some idea of, these are my most popular items, these are my most popular colors, these are items that I have to have, kind of thing. And these ones sell every show, so I know that these are things that I need to have at the booth. I see I just got a comment from We Are Gifts from the Lord. It says, "Hi Tanner, what do you think is a good starting price for a first time booth?" That's a great question. Um, I would say if you are if you are just starting off and you haven't done a booth before and you're not sure about, like, maybe you're not 100% on your setup yet, like your booth setup, or you are not positive which items you think you need more of, all those types of things that we talked about so far today, and also in our previous lives. If you have time, and you didn't see them, please check those out, because I answer some more specifics on these types of things in there. At least from our perspective, I answer them. But I would say a first time booth, probably like under 100 would be a good range. Like a lot of farmers markets, the prices kind of did go up around here, at least on the farmers markets, but you can still get into markets around the $50 to $60 range. And that's not exclusive to farmer markets either. There can be other smaller shows where there'll be a $50 cost. A lot of the art walks are $100 to $200, and some of them allow, like, if you happen to be watching and you're in Edmonton, there's the White Ave Art Walk, and I believe they have like a Sunday only area, and therefore you only have to commit to one day, and obviously it's a lower cost, and their regular price anyways is quite low, like it's quite attainable for anyone. But if you're not sure, or if you don't have the time or the inventory to do a 3-day show, which that one is, you can sometimes do these shows as just the one day and get a feel for customer feedback. Did your display work out? Which items did everybody like the best? Which items sold the best? That kind of thing will give you some good indication. But I think a first-time vendor doing a show probably around $50 to $100 ish. Like if it's 120, sure, that's also good. But somewhere around there, just so it's not so much that you can't conceivably make back your investment, at least if it happens to be a really slow show, or if your display just didn't work out and you had to lay everything flat on the table or whatever. I've had things happen where you forget a piece or something breaks or whatever, and in the moment you just have to improvise. And it's kind of like doing a performance, like you're on stage and you're playing guitar or something, you break a string, you now have to improvise. A professional guitarist, they just roll with it. A novice guitarist, they go, oh my gosh, I have absolutely no idea. So it's better to have that um lower a little lower cost, but of course still do the research on the shows, still look into them and see, like, is this a show that's been going for a while? Are they active on social media? Does it seem like something that a lot of people are saying, at least clicking interested on or going on? Those types of things. Maybe reach out to the promoter and say, how many people do you expect? I'm new to this. And you can get a feel right away for whether that's going to be a good fit for you. Thanks for asking. That's a great question. I think it will help a lot of people. And William Denkin says, hello, Tanner. I live in Missouri, and our farmers markets are generally free unless it's a big, heavily posted, could be up to $100. Okay, that's good to know. Yes, I didn't realize that there were free farmers markets. So definitely, if there's free farmers markets in your areas, then that's amazing. That's a great opportunity to try it out and see, at least like set up and talk to people and get some interaction and some feedback. And it takes some of that pressure off where you didn't have to pay to be there directly, and that way you can really focus on interacting with people, finding out what they like the best about your work, and that kind of thing. So thank you, William. That's a great tip. In our area, to the people that live in our area, I'm not aware of any free farmers markets. There are some that are, I think, lower than $50. At least they were the last time I looked, but I haven't done any of those ones for some time now, so I'm not positive that they haven't changed the price. And this is probably a good time to mention. Last week, I'm sorry to whomever posted the question at the end. I had already clicked off on the video, and it had sort of was going through the process of ending, and I saw a question pop up, and I thought it would stay in a way that I could answer it after the fact, but it actually did not stay. And so I'm so sorry. I would have absolutely answered your question, and I do apologize that I missed that. If you're on today, please feel free to post it again. I would love to answer it for you. It was just sort of a unfortunate situation there. I don't know if I have a system lag on this particular computer or what happened there, but it sort of popped up in a way that I couldn't answer it, and then it disappeared. So the next item. So William is asking, I was wondering, how many products should you make if you're a first-time seller? That's a great question too, William. So I guess it would depend. In my opinion, and Amy's opinion too, I think I can speak for both of us, we would recommend starting with a smaller show, and in which case you probably have like a 4 to 6 foot table. Now, with the free farmers markets, I'm not sure the scenario in your area. Farmers markets do often tend to be, for an outdoor farmers market, you get to set up your 10 by 10 tent. So you do have more space. At least if you're an aisle booth, you'll have 10 feet of displayable space in front of you, and then anything that you choose to put behind you too. If you've seen our videos about some of the ways that I've set up farmers markets in the past, I do the full setup in front, just basically like our indoor shows, but in a tent. So I have grid wall and everything in behind me, and I kind of build everything up so that there's multiple layers. You don't need to do that for your first show by any means. You can have a table, and I would recommend getting a sign if you can, even one where you just have it printed at your local print shop and then have it laminated or something like that. Like here we have Staples, and I know there's, of course, all kinds of other ones in the US, but basically like a print shop, and you can get a nice poster. I would recommend, if you could get just one poster, in my opinion, I would recommend having someone take pictures. Doesn't have to be professional, but clear pictures of you doing the work, your craft, and maybe a couple nice shots of your finished pieces that you're really happy with, and put those on the poster, because if I can only hang one poster, I hang up the poster of me and Amy making the items, because that shows people right up front, like it's very authentic. It says like I'm saying to them, I make this, and here I am actually making it, and this is my wife if she doesn't happen to be present, and there she is making the work too. And then you can add, of course, your website and all that information on there. So if you don't want to get like a whole bunch of promotional materials, such as business cards and all that sort of thing, which I know a lot of people are kind of heading away from. We still do some business cards for ours, but if you're doing your first time booth, get a sign, put all of your information on there. If you have a Facebook group that you started, a little website that you might have for it, an Etsy shop, whatever it is that you want to direct people to, so that they can follow along with you after the fact and contact you if they'd like to, put that on the poster. And then many people, most people really, will just be like, oh, this is great. And they'll take a picture of it. And if anyone buys anything, you can say, hey, all my information's on the poster. Please take a picture of the poster. So getting back to your question, sorry, William, a bit of tangent there, but I would say it depends on what you make. You want to have your booth looking like it's well stocked, but not like bursting necessarily. Sometimes that can happen, especially if you're anticipating a really, really busy show or something. But for a first time show, I would say it looks really nice, uncluttered, but not too empty. If you don't have quite enough, or you feel like it looks a little empty, you can bring props. And you could have like I had a couple old, if I feel like I have some extra table space and putting more products would be too much, or I don't have the products that I would normally put there at that time, I'll put this trunk there and maybe lean the sign against it or something, or I'll lean a little chalkboard or something against it with some information on it for the customers, that sort of thing. But without knowing exactly the type of products, it would range for everyone, really. But I would try to have it so that it's a nice, like when you go into a store and you go to a clothing store and they have all those risers with the clothing on it. And if you walk in and there's like 2 t-shirts on there and then there's nothing else, it's sort of like, okay, those might have been popular, but then you're kind of going, well, geez, it doesn't seem like there's much selection in here right away, even though they may have a whole bunch further back or may have different items. So you want to have it looking so that it's nicely presented, I guess. And what I would do is I would set it up in my living room or my on my deck, in my garage, wherever you have space to set it up, especially if you're doing just like a 6-foot table, and set it all up. Put everything that you've got on there the way that you think, I think I'd like to put it like this, and then take a picture of it. And right away, when you look at that picture, you'll be like, oh, that doesn't look good right there, but it would look good over here. And I think I need another one of those, because like 2 just doesn't make a display. But if I had 3, that's a selection, that kind of thing. I still do that. If I forget, our daughter will say, hey, Dad, take a picture. We got to have a look at this and see if that new idea, see what it looks like. Even if I'm organizing or I'm preparing for a show and doing a new booth idea in the shop or whatever the case is, she said, where's the picture, Dad? And it's always good to remember to do that, because it just immediately, I don't want to make a cheesy camera joke, but it brings it into focus for you. Basically, it's just that right away you'll go, oh, yeah, right, I should totally organize it like that, or I should use a different tablecloth because that one doesn't reach the ground and it looks kind of funny. You can see my boxes under there, or whatever the case is. I hope that answers the question, William. Okay. Yes. Yeah. No, you're welcome, William. And I wish you all the best with your woodworking. That's awesome. And that can always make I was beside a woodworker just last weekend, and you can do, what he did was he had tables where he put like a riser on there. And so he had, I think, cutting boards, and then he had some bowls up on the riser. And so that he had different levels without a whole bunch of setup, where he could basically kind of set the items out. Some of them were stacked up, some of them were just leaning against the riser. at an angle. You can also use, there's little displays that you can get at shops that sell Gridwell and that kind of thing, but they're like for displaying glass plates or for displaying uh, signs and that kind of thing. But some of them have like rubber added to them, and that actually, Amy and I have done some wall art before where we just displayed frames and that kind of thing right in those on tabletops. It looked really good, and it sort of but anything you can put where it's standing up somewhat, it'll grab the person from across the way and they'll go, hey, what's that? And if you can get a little higher just with that riser, just so it's up even in just like chest level or eye level is better, but everybody's a little different height, but somewhere around there, and the person sees it or they look over someone's shoulder and they can see it rather than everything being flat, is really, really helpful. I highly recommend that. So I will continue on here. I think I left off at pricing. So we wanted to talk about pricing next. Basically, when you're getting started, it can be kind of taxing. Another terrible joke there for you. It can be kind of taxing to price your workout because you're so close to it, right? Like it's a labor of love, it's your passion, and you're just so excited to share it with everybody that you can overlook how many hours you actually spent on it, or you kind of go, oh yeah, but I'm new, so I should charge less or whatever. If your product is comparable to the ones that you're seeing, you honestly, you look at it, you go, hey, this is comparable to this person's in the same, like the same type of item, apples for apples kind of thing, then you need to take that into consideration when pricing your work. You want to be able to offer your work obviously at a price that works for the people that are coming to the show, but at the same time, you don't want to have it so that you're undercutting yourself either. So it is a little bit delicate, and there's different things to think about with it. I don't know that I'm not sure how I would do this in the future, but I do a lot with like Microsoft Excel, and I know that program like freaks everybody out, but I have done some simple, basic like spreadsheets and that kind of thing for pricing before, and I just sort of trigger them with little formulas. But you don't have to do that. You can just do a basic pricing sheet, and when you do that, you'll see that you just do your balance sheet kind of thing. You've got your costs, so your labor, your materials, all those things going into it, and then you want to leave yourself so that you can have a profit. And the profit is the way that you, of course, will grow your business. You'll be able to sign up for more shows. You'll be able to kind of enjoy the fruits of your labors in that way. So you'll need a strategy usually to do that. And that kind of covers all those costs, and it provides that reasonable profit margin, especially too, because if you cut it too close and someone asks for a deal and you look at it and go like, I like, it's so close and they've asked for this amount off, and then I will make like $1 or no dollars on this, but I like the person or whatever the case is. You don't want to be in that position. You don't want to have it like that. It won't work out long run for you, and then you won't feel good about it afterwards. And we want you to feel good about it afterwards because you're putting in a lot of effort. This is something that you feel kind of called to do, and you want to present this, and you need to express this, whatever it is. And so you want to also, in order to keep it going, you need to be compensated for it so that you can keep doing that and keep expressing that and keep putting that out, that thing that needs to be expressed from you and your own unique thing. And so I hope that didn't go too far out there, but I think that that's how I think about it. And let's see. So basically, one thing that happened early with our work was not actually before I was involved in the work. When I was just simply admiring the beautiful jewelry that Amy was making at the time, I'm like, wow, I loved that one. Like I just loved everything. She just had so many wonderful ideas. She did beautiful wire wraps, and she did silver clay work, and she did all kinds of other metal work. And I just thought, like, these are amazing. This is what I had kind of caused me to start nudging her and saying, you need to have a booth kind of thing. And she was otherwise doing other things at the time and was like, well, I'm not sure about the booth. And she would give them to her sister and her mom for gifts and that kind of thing. And then all of them, Amy included, we'd be out somewhere, or her sister would be out somewhere, and there would be people coming up constantly saying, I love that. Where did you get it? Can I buy the one that you're wearing? I would only want that. If I could get that, I'll buy it off you right now. I remember that happened in Starbucks. We were sitting at the dentist, and a lady came up to Amy and said, "I'm so sorry to bother you, but like I'm getting married in a month, and I saw your jewelry that you're wearing in that set is just so striking. It would be perfect for my wedding. How much do you want it for it?" And I remember also being stopped, just complete dead stop. We're walking through the mall, and somebody said, "Well, excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you, but how much do you want for that pendant?" And Amy and I went, "Whoa, what?" It was just this type of thing that you just don't expect. I tell these stories though because Amy wasn't planning to sell those items. Her sister wasn't planning to sell those items either. And we didn't know what to say for price because they weren't for sale. So when you're getting ready, you may have like an item that you wear to the office all the time or to whatever job that you might have. And if your coworker came up and said, "Hey, I love that scarf. Where'd you get it?" And you say, "Oh, I made it. Thank you so much." And they say, "I'd like one. How much would you charge me to make you one?" Are you able to answer that question in a way that keeps in mind my previous point about the pricing strategy? Like you go, "Oh, okay, well, I know it cost me about this much to make it." And like it's fine to say, "Hey, I'll get back to you and I'll let you know. I just let me look at the cost of the materials or whatever and figure this all out for you. I haven't made one for someone yet." But would you be in a position where you could actually like go home that night, figure it out, and the next day be like, "Hey, yeah, the scarf would be $60 or something like that, or whatever it would cost." Because that is something that is actually a key indicator that your work is ready to be presented. But are you ready to present it? That's the real question there. And then the next thing that we were wanting to mention was networking. So it's always crucial, no matter what you do, to network. I remember being told that when I took a summer painting job one time when I was much younger and things like that. That was one of the big things they talked about. And I was like, oh, I was just planning to paint stuff here. I never really thought about networking, but that was a key thing for there. It was a key thing when I worked. I used to work for the city of Edmonton when I worked there, and it was a key thing all the while with Amy and I doing the work that we do as artists and crafters here, because there's just so many things, so many shows, so many galleries, so many stores, so many other crafters that you have the opportunity to meet. And the opportunities that come from meeting these people can sometimes be really amazing. They can be great friendships. They can be opportunities to have your work in galleries or in stores. They can be opportunities to be in on a new show, or sometimes there'll be people coming some of the biggest shows to kind of, I guess in the industry, they say headhunt people to come and do their show. So I remember running into people from some of the biggest shows in like Western Canada coming to the shows that I was doing otherwise and saying, "Hey, have you ever considered coming out to Vancouver for this? We think your artwork would be perfect for it. Here's an application form. Here's an early bird entry thing," and so on. And here's my personal card. Please contact me. If I hadn't been at that show, I would have never met that person ever. Like, it's impossible. And if I did meet them, they wouldn't have known they would have no idea why I would be interested to talk to them. So these things are, it's just a great opportunity for networking. So you do want to have, at least like I mentioned, that sign so you can say, "Yeah, I would love to be there. My information's on here. I don't have any business cards yet, but if you would like to take a picture of that, and if I could get your card," or whatever the case is, like if it's for a wholesale opportunity, say, or for some different show and so forth. And then when you're meeting other vendors, it's a great idea to introduce yourself to your neighbors and kind of get to know the people in your immediate area in case you're working the show by yourself and you need a bathroom break, or you need to your My Square machine quit at a recent show, but I happen to know my neighbor. And I said, "Oh my gosh, this thing happened to me. My last one quit at the last show. I didn't replace it as it was only been a week. And now this one died mid show. And fortunately, I knew the person next door, and they were like, "Hey, you know what? I got an extra one in my pocket. Here you go. You got to charge it, but that's it. It's all good." And so I went and the networking can be really important for you. And then our last thing that I think we wanted to mention was legal and ethical standards. Sometimes you'll see other booths or other vendors that have made their own versions of copyrighted materials, such as like Disney and Mattel, and those things are pretty popular for people to do that. If they don't have the licensing to do that, though, it can be a big problem. And so you don't want to be in that position, as those type of items can be requested to be removed from the show, or the applications can be rejected right off the bat if that was part of the application, that sort of thing. So that's just something to keep in mind about the any possible like copyright infringement, or if people considered it, even if it wasn't intended, and that kind of thing. Because there can be people that go through some of the shows where they do an audit to see if all the booths are selling just what they're supposed to sell, or if they have any counterfeits, or if they have any copyright infringements, that sort of thing. So that's important to know depending on what you make. And the very final things here, I think I went overtime today. Sorry, but I hope that it was also helpful. When I think you begin to really know that you're ready to sell your craft when people start coming to you for advice on how to do something. That means that they see you as having at least proficient, if not higher than proficient, knowledge and expertise in making it. And they go, how do you do that? How do you make this? How can I do something like what you've done? You're ready. You're ready to sell your work. When people ask you to make them a custom item or one of the pieces for important events like weddings or graduations, that kind of thing, those are important. Those are something people want to look their best for. They want to give a good gift, something that they think is beautiful and really nice and well done. That's a huge compliment. You're ready. When people you don't know want to buy items right off you, like I mentioned earlier with Amy and I in the mall, you're ready. Because these people, they didn't have any social commitment to you, and they saw that and they went, wow, I don't know. I don't care how much it is. I don't know where you got it, but I want it. You're ready. So I would say start small, start posting and sharing your work with your friends, ask your friends for feedback, and then just kind of go from there. Basically, I think I'm going to end it there because I went a little long. So hopefully that's okay. I want to thank everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. Amy really appreciates it. And we hope that the video was helpful to you in some way. We hope that we answered your questions well. And, if the video was useful to you, we'll hope that you'll consider subscribing to the channel and clicking the like. That'll help you get more of our content and notifications about when we're going live, which is Wednesdays at 6:30 Mountain Daytime, MDT. And will help us grow the channel and reach more people and help more vendors as we go. So thank you so much. And until next time, happy crafting.